Good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of the Pitkin County Board of Commissioners on Wednesday, March 8th. And we're beginning with a very exciting recognition this morning. And it is a proclamation recognizing Kathy Chandler, and Greg is going to run this.
He's got his mouth full. I'm choking.
I'm chewing, but I'll be right there.
And these are not for me, Kathy. These are for you.
Letting the anticipation build.
Come up.
We normally stand.
Well, let's see.
Okay.
Do you want to
Kathy,
come
I
up
think you
here?
need to come over here into the corner of.
We don't have a mic today.
I don't have the mic, but I'm loud.
This is a freebie.
Yeah.
Here we go. All right, this is gonna be fun. Okay, come on over. Not too close. Actually, Mike's there, so sorry.
Oh, well,
As close as you dare. I feel I'm healthy, but.
Yeah, I've got bronchitis. I don't think it's
Yeah.
catching anymore, but
Right.
there
Okay,
it
well,
is.
glad you're here. Okay, so today, this is a special event. We have a proclamation of the Board of County Commissioners honoring Kathy Chandler. Whereas Kathy Chandler began her work at the library in 1979, around the same time that McDonald's introduced the Happy Meal. Pat Bingham wrote this, and the James Bond movie Moonraker premiered, and what other non sequiturs? Okay, and whereas it didn't take Kathy Chandler long to elevate her status as the James Bond of the local library world when she undertook the 12-year-long job of constructing a new library for the community. And whereas in 1991, the current library opened on Mill Street, and in the 32 years since its opening, the building has been remodeled and refurbished many times under the watchful eye of Kathy Chandler and her loyal staff. And whereas Kathy Chandler, along with Assistant Library Director Carol McCardle, were the forces behind computerizing the library's checkout system and card catalog. In 1985, Kathy and the Pitkin County Library played a leadership role in the creation of the Marmot Library Network. And whereas Kathy Chandler would never allow us to issue this proclamation without giving credit to the other librarians who worked with her at the library for close to 40 years, including Dave Golan, who cataloged 6 decades worth of music festival recordings, well done, Natalie Crick, who developed the library website and ran the circulation department, and Susan Keenan, who gave many thousands of young Aspenites their first library cards. And whereas not even a global pandemic was mission impossible for Kathy Chandler, she was able to prove once again what a valuable community resource the library is when the curbside pickup program was initiated and library staff were available online and over the phone to handhold customers who are isolating at home. And whereas nearly 6 million books have been checked out during Kathy Chandler's tenure, how many have been checked back in?
How many have been read?
How many have been read? Yeah, more importantly. And 6 million books, which we think elevates her to superhero status. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Pitkin County Commissioners and the people of Pitkin County wish Kathy Chandler a healthy and happy retirement, knowing that she made an indelible difference in our community. Thank you. Here's our proclamation.
Thank you.
And you might want to give a speech of some sort. The microphone's here if you want to say something.
Well, I would just like to say that it's been a lot of fun, except for the work. And what a tremendous community, and the government officials around here are just role models for the world, I think. And so kudos to you guys for the work that you do. John Peacock, greatest county manager ever, I believe. And I'm so happy that we had Genevieve Smith on staff, who was ready to step up to take over this job. And I think you're just going to see great things with Genevieve in charge. JB, Jeffrey Bradley, is going to be her assistant director. And anyway, I've just been really fortunate to be able to work in Aspen, Colorado for all these years, and to have such wonderful people to work with and wonderful people to work for. So with that, I would say thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for the beautiful flowers.
Genevieve is the one we call about the 6 million books, like we kind of need to get them back in.
We've got a few at our house, I'm sure. Yeah.
Genevieve, did you
I
want
didn't just break
to
your
come
I
up
think-
and
no,
say
it's-
something, Genevieve?
He's gonna read the
Oh,
limerick.
we need a photo.
Yes.
Oh.
with her plaque and her flowers and her
I
board.
will also say there's a poster that says retirement when you have nothing left to give.
Am I supposed to do this also?
Do you want to get your?
If you don't want to, I will.
Okay.
You want to do it?
We're not done with
We're actually not done. but-
No,
Oh,
no,
all
we're
right.
not done.
Let's get the
Genevieve
picture.
is gonna
Get the
speak,
picture.
All right.
and then we
Here
have a
we go.
little
Okay, let's get
limerick
Do you want
to
to
read.
hold this?
I'll hold it.
I'm a
Since-
crier, so
Okay, here we go.
I didn't speak at Kathy's party, and I'm barely holding it together now. But
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, now there's more,
Yeah.
just so you know.
She's Genevieve
Yeah.
is speaking.
Oh,
well,
okay.
none of us know a Picken County library without Kathy, and I don't think any of us will outlive her legacy. And I'm so grateful for that, and for everything you've done. So.
Thanks, Genevieve.
Does
Fantastic.
anybody else
now
wanna
there's
come up?
more.
Okay, well, it's with heavy hearts that we bring you this news of a lass we've come to adore. We're struggling to say adieu as she makes her way to the door. A half century is a long time to toil, and Kathy nearly made it to that mark. She kept library systems well oiled and held tight to the library's park. We needed a new library for certain, and there was pressure from City Hall. When we finally raised the curtain, we had a new library, a park, and a hall. Kathy's been there so long, she might space it when book titles were on recipe cards. With her guidance, we were able to face it that a digital system wouldn't be as hard. Kathy became so enamored with high tech that our library was among the first in the state to create a way to do our book checks on a computer to avoid the wait. Kathy's generation was baby boomer, and keeping up with technology wasn't easy. Preferring in-person meetings to Zoomers, she would defy COVID and make it look breezy. We picked up our books at the corner just to hop and a skip from our cars. We get the latest Little Jack Horner without having to go very far. There were many who helped Kathy stay calmer as the longest reigning librarian around. There was Golan, Keenan, McCardle, and Crick. A better staff just couldn't be found. Now Kathy is gracious and humble. A more dedicated public service servant probably doesn't exist. Without her, we'll most likely fumble, but her legacy will help give us the gist.
I've been them all over that one, I think. Thank you. Thank you.
I need to, let me get started in mine. Yeah, thank you for making me cry before I don't usually need any help making me cry. I just remember many years of the library and the remodel and the building the new library and the remodel addition, and the parties we had in the library, which was always fun. The holiday parties and then the library parties, and bringing my kids in there when they were little. Now bringing my grandkids in there. So she's actually kind of growed me up, and I appreciate it. So you do know, though, that we know where to find you. So when we need your assistance, we can just give her a call. So enjoy your retirement. You really, really deserve it.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, Kathy.
See you guys later. Thanks for
Can we
the.
help her since she's
Oh,
also
I got it.
wounded?
Thank you very much, everybody.
So, John, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There are no additions or deletions to the agenda.
Well, there
Yeah.
is a thing that's been continued, but we'll do that.
We can talk about continuing.
Yeah.
Those flowers, they were so nice right there.
And are there any people in the room who would like to make comment about something that's not on the agenda? Yes?
I just want to be clear, are we taking up item 9 today on the road maintenance plan?
Item 9 has been continued.
No,
Is that what you
item
mean?
9 Is the road maintenance plan.
9? Not on mine.
Last I was told, we were still hearing it.
I don't have a 9
it-
road
it-
maintenance
no.
plan.
Road maintenance is item 8.
8. Oh. I have received no word about that
So
item.
I've been told that item 8, the road maintenance and management plan, will continue today, and item 9 is anticipated to be continued.
So we will discuss item 8
Wait, you said
today.
continued twice there with two different meetings.
Yes.
With two different meetings. So item 8 will be heard today. The board can decide what action it wants to take. There's a second reading. And item 9, the applicant has requested a continuation, which you will decide when you get to item 9.
Okay,
Okay, thanks for the clarity.
Thanks
all
for
right.
that.
So is there anybody in the room or online who would like to make comments about items that are not on the agenda today? Yours is on the agenda, right?
Not,
What?
Just something else.
Okay, come on up, Ellen. Yeah, sure.
That'll do.
Is this on?
If
If the red light
red
is
light
lit.
is on, it's on.
Oh, now it's on, okay. My name is Ellen Anderson, and I am going to be talking agenda item number 6, but this is something different.
Okay.
I just wanted to let everybody know that there's going to be a town hall meeting at the Aspen Library this coming Monday from 5:30 to 7:30, put on by Aspen Flyride, and it's an open forum. Amy Lovins is going to be giving a talk. There'll be question and answer. The public is sincerely invited, and Jackie Francis said that she would be there, so hopefully there'll be some really good informed, intelligent, respectful discussion. Michael Kinsley is going to be moderating it, and we think it'll be a really educational opportunity for the public to come, hear some new information, and ask questions. 5:30 to 7:30 this coming Monday at the library.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Joe Wells,
You might want to speak.
go ahead and,
He wants to talk about,
okay, is that you, Joe, whose voice I hear?
yeah.
I don't know if it's just me for some reason, but the audio is not working on Zoom very well.
Is it working now, Rosa? Is it working now, Joe?
Perfectly. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thank you, Rosa. Okay, did you have comment you wanted to make, Joe?
No, I was just trying to get someone to fix the audio.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay. Then we'll move on to commissioner comments.
Sure.
Go ahead, Craig.
Just wanted to say that I hope everybody had a chance to enjoy the World Cup weekend that we just had. It was a fantastic World Cup. It made a lot of us old skiers proud to be from Aspen, and that we were able to put on an event like that. It went off smashingly despite the weather. A lot of people from the skiing community globally converged on Aspen and had a fantastic time. And it was really, I'll wait. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. And I just want to thank them for putting on a great show. And also that the racers, the U.S. team went out and visited the Aspen schools, visited the elementary school, and it was just the coolest thing. It reminded me of when I was a little kid and these famous skiers came to see us, and it just brought back this flood of joy from, growing up in a ski town. And I'm so grateful for that, and I'm hoping people had a chance to participate and appreciate. The skiing was phenomenal. World-class skiing on a difficult course. The bottom of our course is world-class in its difficulty and challenge for the racers, and it was really fun to be there. So thank you. I think that's all I've got right now.
Thank you, Greg. Any other commissioners' comments today?
I just want to thank all the voters from yesterday for voting at the city election. And I want to thank the voters yesterday for voting at the city election. And Kelly, I guess it went pretty smooth. Yep. And I know there were a lot of people that voted yesterday in person, as people like to do. And I want to congratulate Tori and the new members of City Council. And I look forward to working with them, at least with Tori, for the next 2 years. So, and I really appreciate our staff who was here till 7 o'clock, still registering people to vote if they wanted to vote yesterday. So I appreciate the efforts that Pickens County Election Department put in. So thanks. Oh, and we had a big event on Saturday. How can I forget? We put a new plaque in Veterans Park for everyone to see. It was an Eagle Scout project. It was Sheldon Gentry, who is the grandson of Lieutenant Colonel Merritt. And Lieutenant Colonel Merritt was here with some of his family members and with members of the Eagle Scout organization out of Denver. And they put the plaque in, and we had a little ceremony with the Lieutenant Colonel giving his grandson his Eagle Scout pin that he got in 1952. And yes, I cried the entire time. It was pretty amazing. So anybody who comes by, please go out and look at the new plaques. They're at the back of the park, and they're beautifully displayed. They are the names of soldiers who were fallen in the line of duty that are from the Roaring Fork Valley. Those are the same names that are read every year at Memorial Day and at Veterans Day. And Sheldon Gentry, the Eagle Scout gentleman, young man, wanted to have those names where everyone could read them every day and remember those fallen soldiers. So it's very memorial-ish, memorialism, what's the right word I want? Memorialistic.
Memorialistic?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm gonna make it up as I go. It's pretty cool, so everybody please stop by and read those names as often as you possibly can. So thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Yeah, I wanted to comment on the election as well. I wanted to congratulate Mayor Tory, and I really look forward to continuing to work with him. I think he is the right person and does the best he possibly can for the city of Aspen. And I want to congratulate Bill and Sam and say that I just really want to thank Skippy for his years of service. I have really appreciated his youthful and innovative approach to problems. He thinks outside the box, and I think he's brought a lot to our community, and I hope he continues to stay engaged. Thank you.
I'm very curious who they appoint for APSHA to work with us. Can you move me over as a panelist when you get a chance? Two things, sorry, just about today's agenda. I have to step out from 3 to 4 to attend a different meeting that took us a month to get our group scheduled, so I am sorry to miss that conversation. I've asked Laura to kind of take notes on what I missed during that hour, so I can just come back and be right up to speed with whatever we're discussing on the agenda at that time. And then I just want to acknowledge that today is International Women's Day. And, you know, I think women are in a worse plight than they were a year ago and 2 years ago and 3 years ago. And that plight is directly related to political decisions that are made all over the world. You know, women in Afghanistan are far worse off than they were before the Taliban took control again, which honestly was something I was discussing and learning about over 20 years ago in college. Mm-hmm. And here we are again. Women in America, more of them have left the workforce now in recent years due to the pandemic than had in the past, and it's setting back their opportunities to advance in their careers, in roles of leadership, in improvements and increases in salary. You know, I think that there are opportunities that we have to sort of advocate for and support policies that can improve women and families. I think extending the child tax credit would be a really important thing for us to do. It lifted children out of poverty in a way that we had never seen before so quickly in our country, and I hope that that can make its way through Congress. Women have lost rights, human rights, as far as their right to choose about how and when they choose to have families. This continues to trouble me on a daily basis. I'm glad Colorado is a refuge for that because our political system and our political leaders have chosen to support women's rights to choose. So I just would, you know, point out that we are all in seats of power and authority and decision making and have opportunities to advocate for how to improve this. And I hope we do. And I know it's really the basis of my inspiration to participate in our community. And I just would like to dwell on that a little bit as we think today about International Women's Day and hope that we have a future which we can move forward and no longer move backward.
I have a question for you.
Thank you, Kelly.
I heard a rumor, I'm hoping it was a rumor, that there's been talk about rescinding the women's right to vote. So bring it on.
Well, and any attacks on voting rights are attacks on women because women turn out proportionally higher.
Yes, that's true. That's probably why there's people out there who would rather women didn't vote, because we actually vote.
Well, I fortunately haven't heard that, and I hope I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And we
Thank
still
you.
don't have Steve. I don't think he's working his way through the San Francisco airport, trying to find a place to connect with us.
Ghirardelli's chocolate and cream chowder.
So we'll move on to the consent items. We have one item on the agenda here today, and it's the minutes of February 22nd. Are there any problems with the minutes?
There were no issues that I saw. I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Patty and a second by Kelly. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, individual consideration items. The first one, this is our first reading set for public hearing on March 22nd. And the first one is ordinance accepting development covenants executed by the Community Development Director from January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, in connection with land use development approvals pursuant to ordinance number 032-2017. And we have Suzanne to explain this to us.
Thanks, Francie. Suzanne Wolf with Community Development. We do this once a year, which is great that we don't do it every single time one of these comes through our office.
Like we used to.
So yes, like we used to. So again, looks like we had 22 different covenants that we that I signed off on that were accepted last year that we're looking for you to accept further. Those run the gamut. We have occupancy covenants, which are a lot of those are caretaker dwelling units, growth management allotments, TDRs, agricultural buildings that have restrictions on them. ANSI, people who get some extra square footage for compliance with disabilities. And so all of those things fall into the bucket of covenants that come out of our office. And so today we're just looking for you to approve on first reading, accepting those covenants. We'll be back at your next meeting for second reading.
Yes,
I have a
Patty?
question. There's one thing, I don't know what the meaning is, the last covenant, the one from,
Oh, you're going to want me to tell you what that acronym is.
ANSI.
That's the ANSI. That is American National Standards. That's the one where you can get some extra square footage that is exempt from floor area if you're providing certain accessibility items, whether that be, again, I probably can't speak to it very well, but if it's you need to create accessibility for wheelchair access
So it's
to
more than the
a
American
resident,
Disabilities
it's
Act.
being able, it's something we've gone above and beyond as a request to provide that's something that wouldn't count against floor area if it's needed, to provide access to certain areas within a house.
I racked my brain trying to come up with what that
I'll
meant.
send you an email with the exact.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, well, I'll look for a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve, move to second reading, public hearing on the 22nd of March.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, item number 3 is resolution of the Board of County Commissioners approving the first quarter budget supplemental requests. And we have Connie Baker here. Good morning, Connie.
Good afternoon.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Morning somewhere.
Feels like evening to me, to tell you the truth.
California. Steven's
Yesterday,
still
we
over.
had staff present before the board to present their first quarter supplemental request, and the board spent about an hour going through these requests with staff, asking questions and getting clarification. I'll give a brief summary of these requests. In the general fund, there is a 3-month overlap proposed for the clerk to the board and Board of Equalization position, so that a new person can be trained up with the overlap time with Julia and ready to go when Julia leaves at the end of summer.
Connie, can I ask a point of clarification? Are we just going to approve all of these at once or item by item?
All of them at once.
Okay, great, thanks.
There's a contribution from the Board of County Commissioners of $40,000 to the wildfire camera detection system. In the Emergency Management Office, there's also another wildfire request, and this one to update the county's wildfire protection plan. And this plan is necessary for continued grant funding in the future. In the Capital Fund, Jody presented a request for the courthouse for an update to the heating and cooling system so that the older system that was not touched in the renovation could mesh better with the new system and have their the temperature in the building work better. There's also a request for phase 2 of the jail safety renovation. A request for the senior center office renovation, and this one was a price increase due to the bids received. You'll see a theme going through a number of the requests of just the impacts that inflation are having on the bids that departments are receiving for their projects. The Healthy Rivers and Streams Fund presented a request for a contribution to the town of Carbondale for their Crystal River Restoration Project. And then in the Road and Bridge Fund, with the 2023 paving projects for Woody Creek Road and Owl Creek Road, bids came in too high to do both of the projects without additional funding for those projects. In the Public Health Fund, there's a request for a 2.5-year term limited position. This is a health promotion, let me get the name right, health promotion coordinator. And this position is fully funded for that 2.5-year time frame. And this will give them time to also seek funding into the future and then reevaluate the needs for that position as the 2.5 time period comes to an end. In the Solid Waste Center, there's a new position request. The request is, in a way, a combination between the scale house operations and a heavy equipment operator. And it has to do with a heavy equipment operator being transitioned into a scale house position and now needing to backfill the heavy equipment operator. And staff was here from the Solid Waste Center to explain the increase in needs in the scale house and with the Motherlode Mercantile, and then the needs on the landfill surface. And then finally, in the Library Fund, a request for providing additional funding for an owner's representative as they're going into a feasibility study for a library substation in Snowmass Village. All of these requests put together would increase the county's budget in 2023 by about $3.3 million. It's offset by an increase in revenues of about $300,000, and so the net increase to the budget for 2023 is just a little over $3 million. Does the board have any questions on any of these requests?
Nope.
Doesn't look like it. Yes, Kelly.
I just want to revisit, overall, was there support and direction from the board yesterday on all of these requests?
Yes, there
was.
was.
A majority support for all of them, okay. And then I know there was some discussion related to a site visit for the river restoration. I think that makes sense to do before second reading, so I understand.
We're trying for the 20th.
20th.
Yeah, okay, that works for me, that's great.
I did reluctantly give a nod to move it on, but it was a little bit reluctant because, just to fill you in, I was concerned that Garfield County is not involved at all in this, and it is in Garfield County, and 20% of the budget seems to be an ask for Pickens County, so I did express some concerns over that, so you know.
As an alternative, the board could also appropriate the funds with direction to staff not to distribute until the board has had time to do a site visit and give administrative direction.
Okay, great, that's good to know, thanks.
I mean, I think, you know, we can, if we come back and feel shocked or something, we have second reading to give that direction.
Yeah, second reading's on the 22nd.
Yeah, and I was just saying if for some reason schedules didn't work out on that short of
Okay,
timeframe.
that's good to know, thank you.
I have.
Yeah, Patty.
I'm just gonna bring up my concern, because Kathy's here, about the landfill and bringing a full-time position at this time. I know you shifted it over for some specific needs, and I understand that, but I'm just one who likes to see full-time positions come through the budget so we can see the whole picture, because I don't like the incremental increases without seeing the whole picture. But I understand the special circumstances at the landfill at this time, so I'm willing to move forward with it. And I agree that I think it would be appropriate to appropriate the funds for the river park and leave that open just in case we come up with something on the 20th, or our site visit doesn't work out. So I would like to add that in there as far as moving it forward.
I was just going to say, I know we have precedent with open space purchasing or contributing to conservation easements or development of the recreation trails in Garfield County, like Red Hill, I think, was a contribution from our open space.
Kaufman.
And Kaufman, and
Was an
like, yeah,
Eagle.
so we have a lot of precedents where we're contributing in there because it's important to the entire community. It's unfortunate that the political boundary is where it is, but I think it's important to the community. But I share your concern about that. And then Patty's also just with, yeah, you know, we keep adding people on. I think our county staff has grown by maybe 25% since I've been a commissioner, and it makes me a little nervous. And so I'm thinking, I appreciate your scrutiny, and I'll provide it as well. And I think we find justifiable cause when we bring people in, but it makes me nervous. So I'll keep talking about it.
I actually felt a little more that way about the one in public health than I did at the landfill, because we had not approved all of the FTEs they had asked for, and now suddenly there's a different one as a supplemental, so I was a little more concerned about that one than the
Can I,
landfill.
point of clarification of that, one of the reasons we continue that one from public health, or didn't, was because we asked them to look for funding, which they found.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
So sometimes maybe that's the nudge. You can have this position if you find a way to fund it, so keep that in mind, because we did that a lot through the pandemic with the.
Sure.
And then I just have a question for John Peacock related to the library project in Snowmass Village. Is that at a point where we should have a presentation on that?
I think it will be once we do the feasibility study. So what has happened up to this point is some public outreach to gauge interest and preliminary discussions with Snowmass Village about willingness to partner, but what we don't have are any of the facts now about what that really looks like on the ground and how that might work. So we wanted to do one more phase to understand what a joint project might look like, so that we could bring that, because I'd expect that everyone would want to know, well, what are we talking about? Is it, connected facility or not? Where are the So we've only gotten to the point where we've said we're willing to talk about it. And so these funds would be for an architect and owner's rep that would both lay out some concepts for us to bring back to both elected bodies, and the owner's rep will help us sort out some of the issues that would need to be part of an agreement between the two bodies to operate going forward, and then have that conversation about, do we want to move forward from here?
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any more questions?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking for a motion then.
Is it a public, do we need to open it up, or is it
Public hearing's
staying
on the
open?
22nd.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. I never sharing.
Thank you, though. I appreciate those little helps along the way. Backseat driving is a good thing. So I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the first quarter budget supplemental requests.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Greg and a second by Kelly. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Connie.
Passes by 40.
It's so nice to see you again.
Thank you so much, Connie. Item number 4 is an ordinance accepting a trail license with Pyramid Ranch LLC, and Gary's going to fill us in on this.
I will, and I'll give some maps so we can do some context. If I can plug it in, this lovely thing.
Does it include naming that corner, the rollover corner, with some
What do you
official
name it?
rollover corner?
We're naming it Jeep Rollover Corner.
Let me just make sure your thing is on. Ah, there it is. And I just need to share it, and cool. Well, I'm Gary Tinenbaum with Open Space and Trails, and with me, I don't know if you guys have met John Spees with the City of Aspen. He's their Parks and Natural Resource Manager.
Hi.
And
John,
Welcome.
hey, nice to meet you.
yes. And so the City of Aspen has been working on realigning the trail, the trail that goes to the Arc and up towards Maroon Creek where it connects to the Highlands. And they've been working with the community over the last, is it 2 years now? It's about
18 months, 2 years, yeah.
So it's been about about 2 years, and the reasons for it is to make a much more seamless connection. Currently, the trail goes through the school district, and it goes right next to the high school. Obviously, putting public trails right next to high schools right now, considering what we've been through the last couple weeks, you know, the school campus overall would love to be more secure. So moving a major public trail away from the school campus, but really making a much better connection to get the pretty huge amount of traffic, that bike traffic and pedestrian traffic that goes to Maroon Creek and up Maroon Creek to the Arc, onto a much clearer trail. Part of that trail is going on more open space. We have we purchased that property back in 1992. It allows trails, and the Open Space and Trails Department and the board has looked at it, and the trail is pretty close to the highway right-of-way. And so let me share this so everyone can see it. Give everyone a
The
good...
Maroon Creek right of way, correct? That's what you,
That's his
Maroon
highway.
Creek Road, right, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, there's more open space. Here's Maroon Creek Road. My pointer's going slow. But up top is where the Kiss and Ride is, right near the roundabout with Highway 82. And so the Maroon Creek Trail will take off and go over the bridge at Maroon Creek. And there's two options that you can use to get either to the upper bridge or to the out crossing of Highway 82. There's an underpass there. And where we're really going to be talking about for this trail license is as it goes from more open space on rollover curve, as Greg has called it, on Maroon Creek Road, the right-of-way gets extremely narrow in that section. And to provide a trail that has enough separation from the road and does not require any moving of Maroon Creek Road, you know, we needed a trail easement or license agreement from the private property owner. It's Pyramid Ranch LLC. We've been working with the ownership there for the last year, and you know, they weren't necessarily ready to give an easement right now. A lot of landowners like to hold that in their pocket for the future when they come in with a potential land use application. This is obviously a property inside the urban growth boundary, so this could potentially be an annexation in the future. It could be a whole bunch of stuff, but they're not ready to make that application yet. I feel very confident in taking this trail license that the landowners are being very generous with it, and they're not looking, they're looking to be partners with the community on this. So what we're asking to do is for you guys to accept the trail license agreement, and to, you know, the reason why the county's part of this, and it's not just a city trail, is because first of all, we're on more open space right next door. This is all in the county currently, and by us being on the trail license allows us to enforce Title 12 regulations for the county, which the landowner would like, because in case anybody tries to trespass or has a dog running off leash or anything else on this trail, our rangers and reciprocally the City of Aspen Rangers can enforce. And so, you know, so the trail license would allow this trail to happen. I'll let kind of John speak about now
Is
that
the black line the trail?
Yeah.
the black line is the trail, and it goes all the way to the Arc. Here's a more widened view of it. You can see the whole entire private property that it has to traverse, and you can see how close the right-of-way is to the road, and that's the biggest issue we have. So, John, did you want to add anything on this, or construction timing, or?
Sure. So we've been working on this for 18 months, and we really had hoped to begin construction this summer. Contractors are working on a much different timeline these days, and so we put this out for bid in January, and didn't have any contractors that could complete the work in 2023. This is obviously a large project, but it's also a very attractive project. And so we've pursued a different type of contract where we're going to bring a contractor on board during the design phase, which we're getting close to completion now. And the reason that's beneficial is that we can procure materials and we can secure a workforce for when we do have the project going under construction, which hopefully is spring of 2024. Yeah, that's sort of the update for now. But I think Gary explained it really well. The portion of the license agreement in this section right here, we tried to keep it very close to Maroon Creek Road. But while also creating a good user experience. So a minimum of sort of 15 feet off of the roadway edge. And that helps to manage plow spoils in the winter rather than battling with the road clearing where we can, share a space in between. And we think it also provides that appropriate separation for people to feel safe.
Question?
Yeah, Kelly, and then Greg?
Go ahead.
No. What is the separation between the road and the trail consist of? Will they be on the same grade? Is it just like
That's
a
a great
grass
question.
barrier?
Yeah, so our goal is really to have horizontal and vertical separation. And so at a minimum, our minimum standard is a 15-foot offset, a horizontal offset. In a variety of places along this alignment, you'll be above the roadway, which I think increases that perception of safety and distance from the traffic. In particular, on the Pyramid Ranch LLC portion, if you think about that section, there's a large berm that's right adjacent to the road. So much of the trail here has horizontal separation of 15 to 20 feet, and it also has a vertical separation that's somewhere in the 10 to 15 foot range.
Is it a two-lane trail?
Two trail.
Two trail.
Standard width bike trail.
Yeah, it's a hard surface. It's 10 foot wide, and then we also are going to have soft shoulders where possible. So balancing that excavation need and how big the footprint is with also providing that soft surface. On the 2-lane piece, we are moving towards using more center line striping on our trails, and that's just really advent of the e-bike and making it so that people understand where they should be traveling.
Right. Francis?
And Greg?
Couple things. One, you have at least one driveway crossing. Wanted to see how that will be handled, and I'm wondering if there are other access or egress from the road. Sometimes you're on your bike and you want to get on the trail. How hard will it be to access the trail anywhere along that route? And the reason I'm asking about that also is that, when we had the evacuation after the school shut down last week, the entire road, and as we see it pretty much every morning if you drop kids at school, or if you're trying to travel through there during the ski day, that it gets really busy, really crowded. And I'm just wondering if we've thought about emergency only egress on a trail like this. Is that even a possibility? And has been considered that in the event of an emergency, could this provide access for a fire truck or a police vehicle or something if it came to that and the road's blocked and they need to get through? Is that something that we could consider with this, perhaps just by adding some egress points, or just wondering? And it might not even be possible with this license agreement, but I'm thinking a lot about emergency egress from that part of the valley with the bridges over Maroon Creek, for instance, to Tyack, and perhaps one of these bike trails on either side of the road. Just want to put it out there to see if that has been contemplated and if it's worth considering further.
The short answer is no, we hadn't considered it as a vehicular, having the ability to, hold a vehicular traffic. It is something, though, that we could consider, and I think what that would come down to is look at some of the engineering of the surface that we put down. In terms of egress, there are a lot of locations of the trail where there'll just be that vertical separation, and so there won't be access
Won't
points.
be there, right.
We do have the Alberta Moore Drive as a potential access point. And then up at the Arc Service Drive is another crossing.
Anything on the lower end?
On the lower end, no, really the first access point would be right at the Kiss and Ride. And the tricky
That might be
portion,
a little dicey.
Yes, so
It's a little windy.
it's a little windy, and also the tricky portion here is that's actually our narrowest part of the trail because you're directly adjacent to the bridge abutment.
Right.
So it'll feel a lot like the Cemetery Lane portion of the trail.
And that's elevated above the roadway,
Yes. Yep.
right in there, okay.
Yep.
Just,
I think if
Good
you're
to know.
driving a Mini Cooper, you might make
I
it.
was gonna say, put the cops on e-bikes.
Yeah, but
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part about this trail would be to try to make it emergency access because it's so difficult. Like right here, this is why I pulled this back up. This, the trail, you
That's
can
the hard
easily do
part.
10 feet. You can easily drive a car on 10 feet, even a fire truck. This is where it would be,
that'd be
you'd
tough
be
there.
really, you wouldn't be able to do it. You won't be able to clear under the bridge. And to go up and over, it's a really difficult spot.
Right. The other
I don't
side
know.
actually has something, believe it or not, in all the years I've been here, I've seen vehicles on the bike path on the other side of the road.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, because,
Makes
10
sense.
feet is plenty of room.
Right.
And that bike path's not going away. It's not like they're
So
not
that's
making that bike path disappear. So the goal is just to make it, that's why they're gonna call it the Maroon Creek Trail. The goal is to get all the bikers that are going, and there's a ton of
Up to the
people that are
Bells.
going to the Bells, get them all on a trail that they know where they're going, so they don't end up on the road. Because
Right.
that's a whole nother safety issue because of how busy this road is and the curves that are on this road. And now, when you're coming downhill, road bikers do it all the time, and they'll probably continue to do it. But the uphill biking to the Bells and the e-bike rentals and all that stuff, getting that off the road will be a huge safety improvement.
So makes the next part of that final part is it 10 feet going to be wide enough now that I'm thinking about, herds of pods of e-bikers and, is it 10 feet wide enough? If they
should be.
behave, it will be,
Yeah, 10 feet is usually wide enough. I mean, that's most of the Rio Grande Trail is,
Right.
in the city parts are 10 feet
Yeah,
wide.
okay.
And, there's definitely times where it's not, but with that center striping, honestly, the 2-lane, as Kelly was talking about it, it's a critical component because, we're thinking about it too on significant sections of the Rio is to do that center striping because it, just like a car, it keeps you, even though it's not a barrier by any means, it keeps you on that side.
Well, and it's a speed reducing tool, I think it's.
Right.
yeah, and people are not supposed to ride 10 bikes across.
I have a,
They do.
That's a good reminder.
how does the grade on this side compare to the grade on the other side? Will people be incentivized to use it, or are they gonna go, oh, that looks flatter over there?
I think it's easier.
So one of the goals of the trail is for it to be ADA compliant, which would mean it's less than 5% for its entirety. From the Kiss and Ride to the Highlands Trail is where this will end. So we hope that is very enticing, and really we're trying to capture folks that are coming across the Merle to open space and coming across the Chapel Bridge here and looking for the way to get to the Bells. Not only is it dangerous to have them on the road, but it's also having e-bikes on campus. We know that speed and that mass with kids that are moving between classes it can create difficult
Any bikes, yeah.
Well, as a
It'll be
person
easier.
who continues to ride an analog bike with a trailer on the back of it,
Luddite.
a lighter grade.
This is actually a lighter
great for
grade.
It is a lighter grade.
This
The
will
other
be
one's
this will be an easier way to get to the Arc.
Yeah.
And especially for people that are down valley, you just go right under the highway, right at 82 in the Kiss and Ride, and then it's a pretty easy connection through this.
I think it's going to have a great view. It's gonna be, if you're elevated there, that's gonna be a spectacular view. Maybe that
Yeah,
should be part
of
of
the
the
bells,
the
yeah.
name, you know? So people are drawn
Yeah,
to it.
I have a question. The bridge that we did from the Arc up to Highlands, what's the width of that? It seems a little narrower than 10 feet.
The
So we had to
campus bridge
cantilever it?
from the campus to the Arc, or are we talking about?
No,
the-
I'm talking from the tennis courts up to Highlands.
Oh, that's all 10 feet.
That's all 10
It
feet.
is 10 feet, seems narrow, because I remember when we built that. So people will now be able to go right from the Kiss and Ride, right up Maroon Bells, all the way to Highlands. And then there's that safe crossing that we put in at Highlands.
Town.
For anybody who wanted to
Good
get over
street.
that way, or come back down Maroon Creek and cross over to get on the bike path. I think it's great.
Yeah, and this will be connected, you know, to the big planning effort with the Maroon Bells right now, the signage and everything. The whole point is to keep people on the trail in this really busy section. And as you know, we're potentially working on how to make the Maroon Bells Road even safer. So this whole thing is gonna be integrated together. And that's one of the reasons why they're calling it the Maroon Bells Trail, is to get the majority of traffic, because any local will know where they're going. It's
Right.
just that tourist traffic that's pretty heavy
Yeah.
needs to.
Well, I also have one request, that when you start construction, you give people a phone number other than mine to call about the traffic when you're doing construction. 'cause
Luckily, we will not be impacting Maroon Creek Road at all.
Minimal impact. You'd have to have some
Hopefully,
crossing, but
hopefully not at all.
Hopefully we won't be. There are a couple of tight sections, particularly up actually as you transition onto the Arc property.
we like it when we can send people to the city to call.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I
think
would
this is
make,
great.
I want to comment just to say thank you to Pyramid. Thank you for negotiating this license, and thank you to the ranch owners. And I'd like to make a motion that we approve the ordinance accepting a trail license with Pyramid Ranch LLC.
On first reading, second reading is set for March 22nd.
Nope,
Thank you.
Nope, do April 11th. You guys wanted to change, so.
We're
April
slimming
11th.
down the agenda. for
April 11th.
Yep.
Wow,
I'll second the motion.
I have one more question.
okay.
Is there any implications on the more open space?
We kept it so close to the highway, to Maroon Creek Road, that, you know, the impacts, you know, we've had our biologists look at it, and we contemplated this when we did the update to the more open space management plan, and the goal was to keep it as close as possible to the highway right-of-way, because the highway right-of-way has, not the highway, but the Maroon Creek Road right-of-way has such major impacts there anyway, that, that it's not gonna affect the Nordic trails, it's not gonna affect really any of the wildlife, on this section, and we kept the
We don't
fencing.
have any, like, legal implications as far as giving, access to a different entity? Like, we're not
On more
restricted
open
on that?
space? No, when that property was purchased, it's in fee. So the county owns it, and there was no restrictions in the purchase agreement, to prohibit a trail. We have Nordic trails on it, and so there's no.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion by Greg. Did you second it, Patty?
Yes, I did.
So, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thanks, nice to meet you.
Great, thank you guys.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I look forward to riding this.
Thanks, John.
This will be
Yeah,
crap.
should be, it'll be great. It'll be the view trail.
Okay,
Like
this is
dread going
the
up the arc.
first reading
It's a workout.
of an
Drive
ordinance, amending ordinance number 015-2020, Manager's Rules, Appendix 1 to Title 6, Section 6.16.100 of the Pitkin County Code, and we have Kathy here. It says Michael, but you're not Michael.
Not Michael. I'm Kathy Helm, the Solid Waste Director. Michael Port is not feeling well today, so he's doing the right thing and staying home, but I believe he's lurking virtually maybe, if you have questions. So we're bringing this back. This is the Construction and Demolition Debris Diversion Ordinance, which was originally adopted in April 2020. On December 20th, Michael and I were here, and we presented the program and how it was going. And we recommended to the board at the time to raise the diversion percentage requirement from 25% to 35%. The data we presented and we've been collecting, the diversion program is going very well. Everybody in the program, they're meeting the diversion goal of 25% and far exceeding it. Overall diversion is close to 80% for construction and demolition materials. So the board directed us to make the changes to the ordinance, and we return here. We did open up a public comment period for a month to get feedback. We got 23 comments, about a 50-50 split for supporting and against the change to 35%. And through discussions with the attorney's office and Jeanette Jones and the clerk and recorder, they recommended we bring this back for an amendment for BOCC approval.
Okay. So, because it was a split, is that why you decided to?
It just because the change in the actual ordinance and the manager's rules from 25% to 35%, we were directed to make a official note of it.
We want
Through
to
an
be able
amendment.
to enforce it and make it defensible.
Exactly, yes.
So do we have any questions for Kathy? Yeah,
I
Greg?
just have a question. When I look at the list of recoverables and all that, I look at, I think about, we haven't figured out what to do with drywall. And it's just so funny because drywall seems to me that would be something that should be a recoverable element, repurposable. And if it's in such great quantities as I think I hear that it is out there, any news, good news on that front?
No, unfortunately, in Colorado, we haven't found a reuse. I know we have the gypsum plant down in Gypsum. In discussions with them, and the state is also looking into this on a broader scale, drywall manufacturers are very particular. They have to meet fire codes and moisture content. The gypsum plant, American Gypsum, I think it's called, they will take drywall back for recycling, but it has to be theirs, and it's impossible.
You can't sort it that way, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was a report released by the Construction and Demolition Debris Council, the national organization. They just released a drywall report I read yesterday. So they're recommending soil amendment. I think that would be a good option for us. However, we have to find a way to grind it and have it clean, get the paper and everything out of it. So it's just
So you could grind it and make it an additive
Yeah,
to soil
so-
for.
It
Seems like we make kitty litter out of it or something, you know?
There's
I'm with
an
you.
entrepreneurial, calling
Because
entrepreneurs.
Drywall is a real problem in the
Inventors.
landfill, creates hydrogen
I can't
sulfide gas.
I don't see why the paper would be a problem as a soil amendment.
I don't know, that was the report, we're not familiar.
Maybe
Michael.
it's the glue in the paper.
Well,
Yeah.
but the gypsum itself, I think, is acidic, and you only want so much acid in your soil.
Peach
thought it was
orchards, which we have a lot to the west of us, like the acidic soil. So
I don't think
Michael
dahlias like it.
is on top of it. He is researching it, and
Dangerous
then
light.
as soon as we can find a good reuse, we will definitely take off with
I
it.
think we
I
should
was
just
con-
stamp it all with the word American and then make it.
Yeah, just say here.
There's nothing on it. We could just make up our own logo.
What do they do with it if we get them some of their own?
What they do with it, if we could get
Recycle it.
gypsum, yeah, they'll grind it and put it back into their plant there and make new
Sell it back
drywall.
to us.
With the paper?
Yeah, I don't understand, because they're like a lot of Chinese drywall doesn't meet national fire protection standards, which I didn't realize. So it has to have a certain moisture content and a fire rating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was wondering if Michael, we could mix it with our Maine Coast shale and make a construction material that could be run through a house printer.
Okay, so I think we made the recommendation to raise the minimum to 35%.
He's filling
so
in for Steve
I'm
today.
assuming that it's going
We're
to
gonna figure it out, Greg.
go. So if we don't have
Test
any
it
more
on your
questions,
I do have a question. Pam.
okay.
If I live at, let's say on Prince Creek Road, and I'm doing a major demolition, and I want to do I have to come through the Pickens County program, or I can take my waste anywhere, so I could go to South Canyon?
You can go to South Canyon as long as in the Green Halo system, that's the reporting system, as long as they'll have to go back and manually enter that ticket that they took scrap metal somewhere else, but the Green Halo allows them to do that.
So they still, any project that's gonna do a demolition in Pickens County has to be in the Green Halo program. It doesn't mean that everything has to go, you just have to track where
It
it
just
goes.
has to be
Oh,
tracked.
thank you for that
I didn't know
question.
that.
That was really good.
That was a good question.
I was
Good
thinking
to know.
about a project that might be going down that way.
Yeah, there might be one. Any other questions?
No, do we
Or
need a
comment?
motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
where is it?
50%, we're
It's
going
number
for 50, right?
5.
Number 5. So this is for public hearing on April 11th.
Is the meeting on April 11th or
It says
April
for
12th? I
first
just wanna
reading
make
set
sure
for
we-
public hearing on April 11th.
Right now, we have it calendared, the 11th, Tuesday is a regular
Because
meeting,
there's
so
a
double checking.
Jewish holiday, I think, on the
Great.
12th.
That's what it is. Thank you for
Good question.
clarification.
When's April?
So make a motion to approve this ordinance, amending ordinance number 015-2020, Manager's Rules, Appendix to Title 6, Section 6.16.1 of the Pitkin County Code.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Greg and a second from Kelly. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thanks, Kathy.
All right, see you in April.
Kathy?
Thank you. I hope you feel better.
Okay, we have a one reading individual consideration item. It's the resolution of the BOCC appointing Mr. Michael Waters to the Aspen-Pitkin County Airport Flight Top Safety Task Force. And Rich is going to present this, and we will open this for public comment after the presentation.
Sounds good, Board. Thank you. Rich Engelhardt, Deputy County Manager. I was reminded on an app on the bus in that I needed to reach out and thank all those inspirational women in my life. So I thank my wife and my mom first off, but I knew I was going to be seeing you all today, so I just wanted to thank you.
You're
for
welcome,
all-
Rich.
I think you did something last year at this time that was a little embarrassing,
You know
Greg,
what,
if
Rich?
I remember
we do
right.
Not, we do not.
What
We
did I
don't do
do?
your personnel evaluation.
You'll
Just
have
so
to
you
dress
know.
in drag for that one.
I just,
Thank you, Rich.
I'm with Kelly.
I
You guys
appreciate
do
the
so much,
sincerity.
and you deserve the thanks. So.
With that grin on his face.
I am here today representing as my role as the liaison with the Airport Advisory Board, talking about a resolution that you have in front of you that would appoint Mr. Michael Waters to the Flight Ops Task Force. But prior to doing so, I do want to kind of lay a groundwork here before you make an appointment or make your decision, because there were concerns raised at the Airport Advisory Board meeting when it took place. So I kind of want to take a step back in history here in the formation of the board members. So in October, on October 17th in 2022, Barry presented a concept to the AAB regarding this task force. The AAB gave Barry direction to develop it and come back to them for further conversation. Barry, on November 17th, brought back a concept with a list of 9 individuals that would be joining 3 board members as making up part of this list of task force members. Barry had mentioned to the board that he reached out and contacted numerous individuals. Some agreed to participate. Some said they did not want to formally participate but would offer advice. And it was really a select group that he was kind of polling. All of these people are either current pilots or retired pilots or familiar with the flight operations into our airport. But I will tell you there was no formal advertisement at that time. So the AAB discussed it, opened it for public comment. There were no concerns raised at that meeting. And so the AAB recommended to the BOCC to appoint all those members. And then on December 7th, that presentation was brought to you all. The information gave all the members, the listing of those members. Actually, Patty was chairing that meeting, opened it up for comment, and there were no public comments at that point either. So I want to fast forward now to kind of where things are today. So Barry had received a letter of resignation from John McBride, which publicly we would like to thank John for his participation here, but he just felt it was time for him to step back and others that may be able to engage on a higher level that are maybe more relevant because he is a past pilot, and we appreciated his time. And so Barry had called me right before that, and we had a conversation, and I advised Barry on 2 paths he could take. He could just reach out because he was talking about opportunity for appointing somebody. I said you could just informally ask him to give you advice and be a part of the team, or your other option is to formally appoint. But if you do that, you do have to go to the AAB through that process, and then eventually the Board of County Commissioners would appoint those, or that member. So that's very consistent with what we have done in the past. So Barry decided that he wanted to go that route. So on that evening, Barry sought the AAB's approval for this, and there was very little conversation about it. Barry just presented the skills and why he wanted to appoint them. There was, like I said, little conversation, and there was a 7-0 vote for Mr. Waters to be appointed and to make that recommendation. At the end of the meeting, though, during public comment, there were concerns raised about how rapid this took place. There was no advertisement. There could be other people out there in the community that may have an interest. And the board struggled with that. There was quite a conversation that took place. In fact, 3 members left because it had gone way past kind of our 5 o'clock hard stop time because some of them have commitments. But we did have enough there for a quorum with the alternates present. At that meeting, they did not change the vote that was taken earlier on in the meeting. They did discuss options of, well, maybe we can open up one more spot and do a formal, so that was considered. There was no vote on that, but what they ended up recommending and took a vote is for staff to come back at the next meeting with some formal processes around these task forces or these subcommittees. And so we're going to begin working on that. I didn't want to start that until after we had this meeting today because I think it may take some changes in the bylaws and probably a conversation with you all because we're trying to define a subcommittee and a task force. And at our last retreat, a lot of the members on the board have kind of selected different components within the resolution to be able to focus on those. And they have appointed themselves as leads to those. I don't know that that's necessary. It's a subcommittee of this group. I'm not sure that that's constitutes them coming back to get reappointed to those subcommittees, but our bylaws say subcommittees and task forces need to be appointed by you all. So I think there's some cleanup that we can do there and trying to not hinder the process, but make sure we're doing the proper check-ins with you. But so we'll be doing that. But I just wanted to give you that little bit of background here. So where we are today is that you had a report in there. The staff is still recommending appointing a Mr. Waters. In fact, Barry's here if you guys want to sit down and talk to him as well about this appointment. And I know that you talked about public comment, which I think is great for this and have this conversation. But I just want to tell you there was no change in the process that we went through. Barry followed the advice that I had given him regarding how we handled it last time. So, and we are going to work on something a little more formal because we are going to have, when it comes to the terminal and probably the multimodal connection to that terminal, I believe this Airport Advisory Board is going to need to reach out and form either task forces or they're going to need to get additional public comment there. So. I certainly hope Steve's not going to have me start over.
That bearded man, who is that guy?
We're not going to start over, actually.
Okay. But that's that gives you the background and kind of a little history of what has taken place here. So,
thank you, Rich.
With that, I'll just turn it over to you.
Barry, would you like to come up and speak to us?
Yes, please.
Can I ask a quick question?
Everyone.
Sure.
Has anyone been excluded
What?
No.
participating?
No, nobody has. Well, and I'll let Barry talk to that.
What's the
'cause he's
question,
one-
Kelly?
My question is anyone who has wanted to talk about this and offer their insights on safety at the airport been excluded from the conversation?
No, absolutely not. In fact, Emery Lovin suggested a couple of people that I talked to, and one of those was Doug Kinsley. And I actually invited him after he participated in our last meeting as not as a task force member, but as an interested member of the public. And we had a lot of spaces at the table, so he sat at the table with us and exchanged ideas with us, just like Michael Waters did. And he said, in response to my invitation to consider joining the task force, that he thought he would decline that, but wanted to stay involved with us. There was a suggestion made, Jackie Francis suggested early on in the process that, why don't you get a woman, be involved in it? And I thought that would be great. We had, this is a day when we're all thinking about, women and women's rights and women moving up through the ranks in various industries. And I have to say, in Southern California, the women pilots that I knew were fantastic. I knew jet pilots and CFIs and manufacturer representatives. And, you know, shoulder to shoulder, they're just, you know, there are a lot of women pilots filing in the military now, and there are no issues there at all. I asked Jackie, do you know any? And she said no. I had a conversation with Ellen Anderson, and she suggested one person, and I talked to that person and a couple of times, and she expressed an interest at first, but then thought about the amount of time and energy it would require to stay committed, and she said, well, I'm not going to go forward with it. After this last session that we had, where the issue regarding process came up, I had a conversation with Ellen again, and she mentioned there are a lot of women pilots here in the community who would be interested in participating. I said, great, give them my name, give them my number, tell me who they are, I'll reach out to them. And I didn't get any names or numbers or calls. But so that's the long answer. The short answer is no one's been excluded. Everyone's been welcomed, and we've spoken to everyone. And there isn't one person who expressed an interest in being on the committee, who being on the task force, who isn't on the task force, except for, as yet, touch wood, Mr. Waters.
Kelly, I might mention too, those meetings are all public. They're Zoom linked, and there's public comment opportunities, so even people that may be interested, they have an opportunity to make comments as well.
Oh, I reached out, I forgot, I reached out to Betty Pfister. I mean, if Betty Pfister was still alive, she's flying with the angels now. But if she was still with us, I mean, it'd be great. And I called her daughter, whose phone number is on the website for the Women's Aviation Organization.
Suzanne.
I never got a call back. So I didn't want to press it, so
Sure.
I didn't.
Okay, thanks.
And if the board suggests to us that as part of developing these processes for these new task forces and subcommittees that are going to be established by the Airport Advisory Board, that if you think it would be a good idea for us to have a formal publicized effort to reach out to the community, to invite women pilots in the community who we might have missed, to put their names forward, I'm happy to do that. But I hope in the interim that you will allow us to go forward and approve the suggestion that, Mike Waters join our group, because it's really serendipity to me, because, you know, John McBride, he stepped back, and God bless him, he's entitled to, you know, slow down a little bit. And I was thinking we'd just go forward with the people that we had left. And then John Peacock's great book session, where I ran into Mike Waters, and I had forgotten that he was on the vision process technical working group. You know, his family has had a property here, well, his folks had a home here back in the 60s. He and his wife Adelaide built a place up in Maroon Creek. They were founding members of the Maroon Creek Caucus. They live here full time. He's a mechanical engineer and a business owner, and he flies a turbojet back and forth between here in Illinois and other places. He's exactly the kind of person that we're looking for in this process. He's a quick study. He participated with us in discussion and made meaning. When he did it like Doug Kinsley did, sitting around the table, kicking ideas around, helping us to develop the recommendations that we hope to bring back to you in the second quarter of this year. The first round of recommendations anyway, in terms of how we can go forward to make the airport safer. And Mike is just, I mean, he's exactly the kind of citizen pilot, local pilot, member of the community, really knowledgeable, who can help make a good contribution to this process. And so I hope that you will approve the recommendation that was made by the Airport Advisory Board to approve his joining the group. And as I said, if it's your idea that we should open the door even further to do a public process to invite others, we've got a good working group now, and this, you know, at a certain point in time, you've got more than you need, or maybe enough to get the job done, but if on the basis of transparency and inclusivity and getting additional perspectives, I'd love to do that. Be no problem with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Any questions or comments from the commissioners?
Nope.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing then. Ellen, you want to come up, please?
Hi, Ellen.
How you doing? My name is Ellen. Are we on? Yeah. Ellen Anderson. I'm speaking just for myself as a concerned citizen. First of all, I want to thank Rich. You have really improved a lot in the Airport Advisory Board. I think you've listened to public input. We've changed a couple of things, moving things around, and I appreciate that, and the county commissioners too. And I also want to acknowledge the hard work and long hours of the Airport Advisory Board, including Barry, who's a alternate. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah. We must keep in mind that although the Airport Advisory Board members are not getting paid, they still are serving the public, and public service is intrinsically different from private industry. Public service involves transparency and, of course, open and welcome public involvement. For example, we're home rule here. We're different from other places, and we take public input a lot more seriously than other places. For example, the caucus system that we have here. The airport advisory members were chosen by means of a public process. Calls for volunteers that were advertised in public media. Applicants were interviewed and chosen by the BOCC in open meetings. However, the safety task force, which is kind of a subcommittee, and I think part of the confusion might be that is it a subcommittee or a task force or whatever, it needs to be defined. There was no public. The public couldn't know. It was not advertised. There was no public notice of openings, and in fact, there was no even guidelines as to the number of people who would sit on the safety task force. It was kind of make up the rules as you go along. People just didn't know about it, and you've heard Barry say, well, all they had to do was call me. How would they know to call him unless they happened to serendipitously run into somebody at an Aspen Institute? It wasn't a public process, and I know pilots who had no idea that it was even there, and that is what I'm talking about. It's not about the personalities. I'm sure Michael Waters is a fine person. I'm talking about the sanctity of the public process. I knew what was going on because I take a great interest in the airport, but quite frankly, I just did not have the time at that point to make a big deal about it. And I just said, okay, this is a one-time thing, just let it slide. Now, of course, I deeply regret that. I just did not have the time. However, I did suggest to one potential applicant, whom Barry has mentioned, Polly Ross. She's a longtime local pilot. She owns her own aircraft, houses it here and so forth. And in a phone call, or maybe it was two, with Barry, Barry either, somehow she decided, or he decided, they decided that she was not for the job. Okay, but there were other people who had no idea. Barry unilaterally, from my perspective, chose the 12 and then asked the Airport Advisory Board to okay them without, the Airport Advisory Board did not meet or interview them or even see their applications. I don't think there were applications. And then the BOCC, based on the Airport Advisory Board's advice, rubber stamped it. And Barry has told you, I have no power, I'm just the water boy, I'm just a scribe of the safety task force. That's a bit disingenuous, because Barry has hand-chosen these through his own private network. It was not a public process, it was a private, and suggested to the Airport Advisory Board with no interviews, not a good vetting process. Yet, and now you have the power to correct this private process and return it to the public process, and that's why I'm here. Now, I feel morally compelled to speak up, and believe me, there are a lot of things I'd rather be doing than sitting here. As a concerned citizen sitting here in public meetings, you know what it feels like? I'm sitting in the emergency room. That's what it feels like. And instead of it being my son, the victim is the public process in Pickens County. Instead of the issue being a strep throat, it's the sanctity of the public process. My loved one that I'm sitting with in the emergency room is my community, whom I dearly love. I've lived here 50 years, and I think I've demonstrated I love this place.
Well, we really appreciate your passion and concern, but we do have
I'm
sort of a
moving
time
on.
limit,
I
so
hope I get
hopefully
equal
it's
time.
getting there.
At the last Airport Advisory Board, it took only a few minutes for Barry to announce John McBride's resignation from the Safety Task Force, and I didn't know that Rich had known about it. As far as I know, nobody in the room knew about it until Barry announced it. And to announce that Barry, had chosen Michael Waters to replace John McBride. As a member of the public, I was not allowed to say anything until 2 hours later at the end of the meeting and voice my opinion that the choice of Michael Waters was not a public process. In a subsequent phone call with Barry, he implied I'm being obstructive, just trying to slow things down. The Safety Task Force needs to keep moving quickly, and and that the end justified the means. That one really kind of scared me. So here we are, and may I offer solutions? I'm glad to hear everyone agrees that we need to clarify what the process should be forthcoming. But in the short term, I think there are two possible solutions. One is to open it up to the public, and whether that's Laurel Caddo, Kim Brasher, Polly Ross, whom I've all spoken to. Those three women unfortunately have personal obligations now and can't do it, but there is an excellent candidate, Walter Cheap, who has lived here.
Actually, this is not really the format for introducing
Oh,
possible
okay, what I want to
members,
say
so
is
if you could sort of finalize
I will.
what you want, Ellen, so
Excuse
that
me,
we can move on, I'd
excuse me, I'll
appreciate
make it very short.
Thank
There
you.
is an extremely qualified, long-term local who has degrees in aviation, owns a plane, has worked operations on the air side for 30 years, knows every aspect of safety at the Aspen Airport. There are qualified people, and what I'm suggesting that you do is that you open one of two things. Open up the process so these qualified people know that there's an opportunity instead of doing it privately, or just do what you did for the visioning process, and that is when there was attrition, nobody was replaced, they just carried on. And that would have the advantage of not slowing anything down. Instead of 12 people, there would be 11 people, and carry on. My point is, I believe that you are the doctors, that we have a problem here, and that is the public process, and you can restore it to health by saying no to this particular thing, and there are good answers, just carry on with 11. That's not going to slow anyone down.
Yeah, okay.
Or open
Thank
it
you.
to the public.
Thank you, Ellen. We get it. Thank you so much.
Thank
We hear you.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, Rich, I think your plan to revisit this is perfect. See if we can clean it up, and we're learning. We've said this from the get-go with this group. It's kind of learning as we go along. I did recommend, it didn't come out of the clear blue for the first safety group. There was a discussion that was made, and it was made here at this table in a public setting. And I think right now we're having the public process, so the public knows what we're doing. So I appreciate that, the effort that now we're saying, okay, maybe we can clean this up, which we've done. Ellen has brought other issues to our attention that have been helpful, and we've cleaned some things up to try and make the process more public and more transparent. So, but I am comfortable in moving Mike Waters on at this point, but that means in the future, let's have a process in place.
I'm going to counter that a little bit, because I think we have lots of layers and lots of different ways that we do community input here at the county. And like one of the things that this sort of brings up for me is a parallel analogy with what we did with like working with our design and development community related to our building energy code stuff and some of our initial growth committee advisory stuff. You know, where because all of that ends up in a very formal process at this desk, that those ad hoc groups, which are open for anyone to join and participate in, like all of that feedback comes to us in a formal way. You know, and so I don't feel like every level of public process needs to come to us for appointment and application. You know, we throw the net out there and say, you want to be part of this discussion? Here's your point of contact. Be part of this discussion. You guys talk about this topic. You come up with some recommendations. Those recommendations filter up to us in a very formal process that I don't feel the need to like.
Kelly, I wasn't saying
formalize.
that at all, so I hate to interrupt you, but that's not what I was saying. I'm saying I appreciate Rick.
Please don't interrupt me, Patty
You
Clapper.
broke in.
You do this.
Let's
a
wait till
lot.
Kelly's done, okay, and then you can respond, Patty. Go ahead, Kelly.
And it's frustrating to me.
Well,
So
it's-
thank you.
You're welcome. But
So I'm just countering a point of how we do this differently in the county for all levels of public process, that I don't think we need to formalize every single, like, next deep dive down. So if the safety task force wants to appoint somebody who's gonna talk about virtual cameras, I don't need that to come to the BOCC for us to appoint a group to talk about virtual cameras or something. Like, I just think it gets to a point where, you know, we can cast the net, we make sure it's not exclusive, those conversations happen, and then they come to us in a very formal recommended way.
Can I clarify what is actually being talked about here? So are you recommending then that Mike Waters attend the meetings but not be appointed? And that's why you're responding to Patty's recommendation
No,
that we proceed with the
I'm
appointment?
I'm just saying, I don't think we need to, like, further formalize what we're doing here.
But how is that in disagreement with what Patty said? I don't quite see where the conflict is here.
So Patty is recommending that Rich take this on and go back and further formalize how the safety ops task force process would work in the future.
Mhm.
And I just don't think that we need to continue to make all of this, you know, more formal than it currently is.
Okay, I see. Patty, did you want to
yeah, no, I
respond?
asked Rich to look at what he thinks might be a better way to clean this up if need be. I didn't say come back with a formal process. So apparently you didn't hear what I was saying. And I'm sorry for interrupting you, but don't put words into my mouth, please.
Okay.
I was
apologize
just
for my
asking.
misinterpretation.
Well, and you jumped on me, and I'm tired of it. So I asked Rich to just follow the process and maybe go back and see if there's something we can clean up, like we did with how we set the agendas and the process we use for minutes and all that. Rich went back and we cleaned things up. It's a learning process. It's a changing process, and we said that from the get-go. That is what I said.
Yeah, and I may mention that there was a vote taken to come back with some ideas. So this is helpful because
A vote
as I
from the
mentioned,
AAB?
from the AAB to, hey, you know, let's bring it back and let's talk about this process. So these are helpful conversations because in my opening I was saying we may be a little too formal in the way the bylaws were set up because they were pretty tight to start out with. So to Kelly's point, there may be, you know, options here. So, and I think, so both of you, I can do that. We can work
Yeah,
in that
what I
realm.
would not like to see is somebody being excluded because we have this new formal process for asking people to come in. And if you don't make it through that process, then you're not part of the process. I mean, you know, so I kind of agree with Kelly in that I think we should welcome experts at every level. And I'm not sure that we need to formalize it either. I hear Ellen's complaint, but I think I'm not quite sure what steps would be taken to encourage more people to participate. We have had a lot of outreach about the airport over the last few years. A lot. I mean, in my opinion, way over the top. Years and years of outreach and trying to get people involved. So if they haven't heard about it yet, that's remarkable, in my opinion.
May I make a few comments to the process
Sure.
issue? One, I didn't select these people privately. I didn't do this behind closed doors. Brett Detweiler, Patty suggested him, Captain Detweiler, and I reached out to him because Patty suggested it. I think here in this open forum, Peter Hutter and Bill Landis, they were interviewed for the position that I wind up filling on the Airport Advisory Board as an alternate. And in your deliberations, you all expressed an interest in having them be engaged somehow, so this was an opportunity to do that. This was not me going back behind closed doors and coming up with a private list.
I don't think that we think it was
Thank
like
you.
that.
It just wasn't happening. Thank you. What I would request that this board do today, please, is to approve the recommendation that has been made by the Airport Advisory Board to formally appoint Mr. Waters to the task force. Those are the bylaws that we have been operating under, and please don't punish him because this issue has been raised. He should be of equal dignity, as it were, with the other members of the task force. He's a great guy to have on it. And then the Airport Advisory Board, I know, is going to have this on their agenda, the process that we go through and a discussion as to how detailed, how much outreach there needs to be, how formal the processes need to be for establishing these subcommittees and these task forces, and whether there's a difference or not. And we'll get into that. Please just do this piece of business today, and we've heard the views of the members of the board in terms of like how you want us to try to grapple with the issues in the future. And we on the advisory board, I hope, because I can't speak for, I'm authorized to speak for the board as a whole on this, but we will certainly, it'll be on the agenda, and we will bring it up, and we will discuss it, and we'll try to do the best thing that balances the outreach with practicality, and to come up with a good result. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Barry. Steve? Hi, welcome. Nice to see you.
Hi, how you doing? I'm sitting at San Francisco Airport. Is there, one question first, is there anything in the bylaws that specify how many members should be on the subcommittees for the Airport Advisory Board?
No, there's not, Steve.
We're about ready for takeoff.
Did you hear that?
I did not. I'd heard just the PA announcement here.
Yeah, no, there's no specificity like that regarding that, no.
There's no set number.
Looking like from a distance at this thing, I think what we ought to
Boarding
do.
programs or passengers per United Flight 2114 to Houston here at 19. Oh, technical for passengers.
Just a minute.
To the gate here at
It's clearer than if you would be in the airport.
No kidding.
Okay, I think we should open up the safety committee to anybody who wants to apply, but I think there should be a system where they apply to the Airport Advisory Board, just say they would like to serve on this committee. And then the Airport Advisory Board can appoint however many they want, and it doesn't need to be 12. If there are more people who are qualified, let them on the committee. And I think appointing Michael today would make sense, and then open up the process for the people to be interviewed. They don't need to be interviewed by the commissioners. They need to go to the Airport Advisory Board. Also, this subcommittee is going to make recommendations to the Airport Advisory Board, who can have their own discussions about the recommendations. And then they are the ones making the formal recommendation to us. So I'm not worried about that process at all. I think that's what Kelly was alluding to. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I think that's a great recommendation. Anybody else? Any more?
No more from me.
May I also, because Barry got to make another comment?
I'm sorry. That's not how it's.
Seriously.
That's the way it is. I'm sorry. It's not a discussion. It's public comment. And then we have our discussion. So thank you, Ellen. Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion?
Sure. Unless you were about to.
I was about to. I'll move to
second
approve the resolution appointing Mr. Michael Waters to the Aspen-Pitkin County Airport Flight Top Safety Task Force.
I'll second that.
And I would just like to make comment before we vote on that. I do think that Steve's suggestion is a good one, and I think it's great that you guys are going to proceed with more discussions about this. I will say that your time together is precious, and so I hope that we're spending more time on the airport than on how the airport board operates. So.
Thank you.
Aye, aye.
Ditto on that.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further comments.
Steve hand is still up. I don't know if he. Discussion.
Say that one more time.
Steve's hand is still up.
Oh, Steve, do you have more to add?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, your hand is still up. Okay, so there's a motion. The motion is to approve the appointment of Michael Waters to the Aspen-Pitkin County Airport Flight Top Safety Task Force. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 It passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Barry and
Thank you,
Rich
everyone.
and Ellen.
Thanks for coming all.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay. Item 7 is a public hearing. And this is the second reading, and it's a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners authorizing the Colorado Department of State Help America Vote Act Grant Award, and Ingrid Gruder will be telling us about it.
Yes.
Hi,
Okay.
Ingrid.
To tell you again, hear about it. These are printers that work from the ICX, the image cast ballot marking devices, that will enable us to print longer ballots, both sides. It removes QR codes, so the ballots all look the same. They'll look the same as the mail ballots. There's no issue there. And it is paid for through the PAVA funds and mostly from the feds and then filled in from the state.
And so we're just accepting the grant at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Any comments from the public? Anybody online, Russ? Yeah, Kelly?
I'll make a somewhat unrelated comment, but I'm very disappointed to read in the news that some of our states are leaving the ERIC, I forget what the acronym stands for, but this is the service to which states opt into to share voter registration data. So that you cannot be registered in, say, both Florida and Colorado, which I think we have a lot of people in our community that struggle to figure out where to register if they're going to be in that state or this state. And I'm disappointed that we won't be actively sharing those voter rolls anymore so that we can ensure people are abiding by federal and state law, election law.
So,
It's very disappointing, yes.
is Florida is one of them?
Florida, Missouri, and
It's the other one.
West Virginia.
Yes.
have
They don't
opted
share.
to leave that data sharing service.
Oh.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
We had to turn away a gentleman last night coming in to register, and he was already registered in Florida and wanted to register, so he'd go over to the city and vote. And he said, can't do that.
Yeah. Anyway, and thank you for working late to help with the city election.
Yeah.
I was one of the people sending them over to you.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Any more comments from the commissioners or from the public? Okay, I'll look for a motion.
I'll move to approve the resolution of the BOCC authorizing the Colorado Department of State Help America Vote Act Grant Award.
I can second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks,
Aye.
Ingrid.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. That passes 4-0. And now also, now also on a public hearing is the ordinance of the commissioners amending Title IX, Section 9.12.090A of the Pickens County Code regarding the road maintenance and management plan. Hi, guys. Introduce yourselves and fill us in.
I'm Brian Pettit, I'm the Public Works Director.
And I'm Scott Mattias, the Deputy Public Works Director.
So we've been here before, talking about a similar issue, but with all the Title IX changes that were made at the last meeting, the one standing out was how to manage the gates on Maroon Creek and Castle Creek Road. And I'd like Scott to go into some of the public process that we undertook back in the spring, I want to say. But through that process, there was a negotiated position because we had differing opinions on when the gate closure should happen. And all from a staff standpoint, we just want to set on a date. We'd like to have a date certain so we can advertise it and people can draw their expectations from that access limitation, both on Maroon Creek and Castle Creek. But through those discussions that Scott conducted, we landed on November 15th as the closure date. And that was through a negotiation with both sides, and it was one of those things where nobody was quite really happy with it, but it was kind of a settlement. So that would be the closure time. The opening time would be no later than May 15th. I think that date was less controversial. I think the closure date was really where people's energy and passion revolved around. So previously, staff's recommendation was to have the closure date on November 15th. We are back here today to make that recommendation again as a firm closure time. I know there's a lot of people in the audience that would like to speak during public comment, so we'll keep the presentation short. But Scott, maybe illuminate the board about the process that we undertook in the spring.
Yeah, quick history is, the current language in the ramp says on or around November 15th. There's a lot of gray in that. It has never really worked great for staff because we either closed it too early or closed it too late, depending on what you were trying to achieve in those valleys, both Castle and Maroon. I think it was November of 21, I believe. Snow didn't come until after Thanksgiving and really raised the problem, the issue that we kind of need to work on a set date. So spring of 22, we started reaching out to the neighboring stakeholders. We tried to include as many as we could, and then our partners with the Forest Service and Parks and Wildlife. Back and forth several times, most of it because of COVID was on virtual meetings. And like Brian said, we thought we had a date set for the 22nd, I believe. And then before we got back to you guys, realized it was the 15th was a better recommendation. So really, that's where we were. The benefit of setting the date to the 15th, a solid date, would be if you're recreation, if you're just any of those user groups that are up in the valleys, and then also for road maintenance, to be able to have a set date to put our signs up. We have the big variable message signs. We can make aluminum signs that would then state the date of closure. And then if you're a recreationalist, a bike, all the recreational forms, us that are trying to close the road for snow maintenance, the businesses up in the area could also just set those dates for staffing, and just everybody would know and adjust their forms of whatever they're doing in those valleys around that date. So that's why we're recommending the solid closure date.
I have a couple of questions. Does anybody else? Okay. So it'll be a flexible date for reopening, but a firm date for closing. Is that correct?
Yeah, no later than May 15th is the wording.
Okay.
So if we have a warm spring and it's just obvious the gate should be open, we could do that.
But if there's a lot of snow on May 15th, you'll open anyway and clear the road.
We try to. I think the exception was a couple of years back where we had extreme avalanche problems that required a lot of effort to open it up. We ran up against that time restraint.
Okay. My other question is there a gate for bikes to go through when the road is closed? Is there, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
So bicycle, that's really what Maroon Creek becomes, in both, it's kind of a glorified bike path.
Yeah, right. And so there's a place for them to enter. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Craig.
I was just going to say, thinking about the avalanche closures, kind of throwing a spanner into the whole plan. I appreciate the avalanche closures and wouldn't want you to be working too vigorously to remove them when might be best just to let them melt, right? Or till the point where you can plow them easily. Those times of the year when the closure isn't in place, it's actually a great luxury for the cyclists who can get in, and the rollerbladers and the others who have a road which is mostly clear, and they don't have to worry about traffic. And I know a lot of people really appreciate that. I hear your argument. I appreciate what you're saying about. I'm wondering is, can we do the advertisements, and can we post signs that express the variability of the road closure? Just as a devil's advocate, I'm with you. I think I support what you're proposing, but I want to hear what the public has to say. But I'm just wondering, could we have a sign up there that says this road is open? The condition of this road is completely due to the weather, and it may close without notice after the next storm, or something like that. Is that enough warning for people going up there, or you still think we're going to have a lot of people getting trapped? And how many people do get trapped in there?
So we've used the variable message signs for the last, I think, probably 5 years.
With that message?
The message was simply, road closes November 15th or sooner with snow.
Okay.
Depending on what you call snow and the next person calls snow and we call snow, there's too many variables, right? Is that 3 feet of snow or 2 inches of snow? So that's been our challenge is, what is too much snow or enough snow to close it?
Okay, copy that.
Yeah.
And then how many people do get trapped in there?
Rough guesstimate would be like maybe one a year over the years. Like some years have been worse where there's camps been stuck up there. But I feel like there's been at least one vehicle or group that's been up there camping or something. Some years probably 0, but
And are they just going later than when you said the road was gonna close, or they go in and a storm comes?
correct. Usually what happens is they're usually up some of those camping areas way back in there, or they hiked in there, or parked their car at the end of road and hiked in there, and then a storm moves in and produces quite a bit of snow, and they're maybe calling for 2 or 3, and now the road is closed. That's, yeah, exactly.
Any more questions? Patty?
No, thank you.
No? Is there anybody in the public who would like to ask a question or comment? All right, let's start with the front row. Once you come up, state your name.
Is there a way on Zoom to share? I joined the meeting on Zoom. Just hoping to share some photos.
Remind them it's 3 minutes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay.
Mr. John Wilcox, Asheville.
Great. And Morgan Boyles, I'm the director of the Alfred Braun Hut system. And yeah,
So we do have quite a few people who are gonna speak, so we're gonna try and limit it to 3 minutes.
Share these photos.
Thank you. And recent winner of Ski for the Past, right?
Yeah, it's a great event. So yeah, we're very thankful for what Road and Bridge does to support what we do in the summertime. And then the winter, the huts really rely on the work that the Ashcroft Ski Touring does to maintain and groom the road so that our users can use that area to access.
This is a picture. This is not our ski area. This is the Upper Castle Creek Road that we've never come to the council and asked for, the commission asked for funding for. We do that ourselves gratuitously. So this is used by the public. It's also used by our customers if they don't want to pay for a ski ticket to come to use the trails on either side of the road. That's another perspective down below. Here's an example of the public using that road. Again, this is not a road that Ashcroft Ski Touring charges for a ticket to use. It's used by the public and very vigorously. It's also used, these are people going to the huts, the Braun system, the Goodwin Green, the Taggart, thank you. Here's a picture of myself and a friend of mine who's about my age. I can't ski anymore. I can't cross country, but I can walk with 2 poles. So myself and other people use this road as a place to go and walk your dogs. There are very few places you can do that in the county. This is this past fall, when the road was plowed again for the first time in 50 years. Last fall, they decided to plow the road. I'm not quite sure why. They said that you all gave permission, but I don't think that was true at the time. I think that's part of what this meeting is about. But Greg suggested separate trails on either side of the road, but you see it's impossible to do that because of the terrain. And you can see also, I think the suggestion was plowing the snow back on the road, but that doesn't work either. Steve, suggested packing the road. You said that was how he did his driveway at his house. And that's really what we're talking about, because for 50 years, that's what we did. When the first snows came, we packed the road at the gate in advance of the gate closure.
That was just a picture of Scott was talking about a really low snow year. This is last December when we had very little snow on the road. And then these next 2 pictures there are a lot of hunters that use that area in the fall, but I think that the different groups up there, whether it's Toclot, Pine Creek Cookhouse, has always been very lenient and always turned a blind eye to where everyone camps. And a lot of camping happens just at the Express Creek road start, where you're actually not supposed to camp, and nobody really pays attention to it in the fall.
That's this past fall, and that's illegal camping. That's the hunters coming up. And this picture I sent to the Forest Service is a Hunter Park next to you can't see it if you look on that stick there, it says no camping. And that's really what we think it is about, is the access to use, well, this is illegal, this is the Pearl Pass parking lot. But then, of course, further up the road on Pearl Pass Road is a campsite that they use. And one of the problems that Road and Bridge has had is, in Fish and Wildlife, is that people wanting to go up there and put their camps. But it's a very small number of people compared to the broad people in the public that would use the road if it's available to ski.
And it's a very short section of roads, 1.8 mile section of road from where the King Cabin, where the closure gate is, to the end of the pavement. And then the campsite is up here. Usually there'll be maybe 2 or 3 groups camped there in the fall. And so we're in an ideal world, we think it would be just the ability to have a flexible closure date like CDOT does on the pass would be beneficial for all users, so that when there isn't snow, hunters can access and camp. When there is, we'd be able to groom and have access for winter users. We understand that Road and Bridge really is advocating for a firm closure date, and so after our last meeting, they had even thrown out a closure date of November 10th. The tricky thing is the huts open Thanksgiving around November 24th, and so we close on the 15th. That's just us hoping that there's a snowstorm
between
for 2 weeks. And so we're really grateful that some of the original proposals were plowing the road all the way into the end of November, because a lot of the hunting seasons are later now, and that would be really tricky for us, because once we lose snow coverage on the road, it's not like it's just has to do with that November access. It could be all the way to Christmas that you're waiting for snow coverage. So it is a tricky issue with many users, but we're just all of the winter users. There's about 7,000 hut visitors throughout the whole winter, and then the Pine Creek Cookhouse, there's a lot of winter users. So we'd hope that this 1.8 mile section wouldn't be too much of an inconvenience for those last two or three hunting seasons. So,
Patty, your proposal last time was to try this for 2 years and then come back to the commissioners. Well, we tried it for over a decade and it hasn't worked. We gave up Thanksgiving. We accepted that. In fact, many employees, including myself, enjoyed not having to work at Thanksgiving, but others would prefer to be working. But what changed on that in November, and I believe in what they're proposing, is to plow the road in advance. If that wasn't the issue, and it was just the 15th, the way it's been for over 12 years, I wouldn't be here. We accepted that. We've given up Thanksgiving. But plowing the road, as demonstrated by that photograph, has created a totally different deal up there that hasn't been the case in the 36 years I've been there, and it hasn't been the case for 50 years that the cross-country ski area has been on either side of the road. So that's what really radically changes. If they needed a fixed date and they had to plow up to that date, then we would say the 10th would be at least give us another 5 days of possibility to get snow. But this is part of the Aspen Snowmass cross-country system, and a great part of it because it's early skiing for ski team members. High school, it's access to the huts earlier for those people. So I'm sure the commissioners will understand that and vote in favor of at least keeping it the way it was, and that's not plowing in advance of road closure. Or if you need a fixed date, then maybe the 10th would work. John Peacock is, as Morgan pointed out, suggested at the meeting that CDOT's example might be one to follow. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Thanks so much for your time.
Can I ask Morgan a
Yeah,
question?
go ahead.
Where do people park when the gates open to get to the huts?
In the springtime in May.
Or the summer or wherever?
The huts are winter use only. So in the springtime, like we were open through the end of May, and so like Scott and Brian were saying, there's a flexible opening date. So when the road is plowed, they'll just park at the end of the pavement, right there where the Pearl Pass and Cooper Creek roads fork.
Thank you.
Yeah, the springtime language really doesn't change. It's just the wording of it. You're still flexible on opening it in the springtime, correct?
Yeah, it would just go from on or around to no later than.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing anyways now.
Yeah,
it just
there's really
cleans
no
it up a
change.
little bit. Yeah.
And Brian, relative to avalanches, what I've always said was, in fact, we used to clear the avalanche between the Cookhouse and Pearl Pass. And what we've always suggested was if the road is melting out like that picture between the King Cabin and the restaurant, that we'd use the restaurant parking lot for the backcountry people and let the next part of it, the avalanche part of it.
We're
melt
going to
out. But if
move
you
on so
wait
other
until
people
the
can speak.
avalanche-
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't bring a picture of when Road and Bridge helped after the big 2019 avalanche.
Thank you so much. Okay, back row.
My name's Ron Christian. I'm just a concerned hunter. I've been hunting up the Castle Creek Valley for 28 years. And over the years, we've seen more and more hunters. The hunting pressure has just gotten more and more people up there. To be honest, I really don't hunt above the gate much. I hunt mostly below the gate. My biggest concern with closing this earlier and earlier is the fact that those hunters that do hunt in that area up there, they're going to be pushed down below the gate, so the pressure down there is even going to get worse. The hunting pressure and, that sort of thing. The other concern I have is I believe Mr. Wilcox's son is a hunter also. He has a cabin up there. If we close this down, his son's going to have exclusive access to hunting up there, and nobody else is going to be able to hunt but his son, basically, unless you want to walk that other mile and a half up in there, which some hunters can, some hunters can't, because of physical, disabilities or whatnot. But anyway, that's my two concerns. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other people in the room who'd like to comment? Okay, come on up.
Hey, my name's Jason Sills. I'm in the same camp as Ron. I was up there this year on November 24th. The gate was closed, the road was bone dry, and we'd paid good money for a hunting license up there and couldn't get through to where we were trying to go. So it seems like it's kind of an exclusive access just for a few, and all the people, I got a gate closed on me this year on another road, and snow on the ground, one set of tracks going up, and when I came back down from the mountain, the gate was closed. So it seems like having a firm date that's after the last 4th rifle season. The game warden's here, and he can advise when a good date for that would be, so people can get back out. Tired of getting stuck up there. It kind of seems like it's almost on purpose that people closing gates on us sometimes before a specific time. So that was all I wanted to say too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody online, Rosa, who wants to talk? No. Anybody else in the room? Yeah, come on.
Nice to see you.
You too. Madam Chair, Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you. I am Curtis Tesh. I'm the local wildlife manager for Colorado Parks and Wildlife. I cover the Upper Roaring Fork Valley, including Castle Creek, and I'm here representing the hunters. When we originally started discussing this and trying to find the appropriate date, the date I brought forth was November 28, which would be after fourth season. That would allow all hunters all the way through fourth season vehicular access up there and back out. After some talking it through and people point out other views, we all kind of agreed with this November 15th date. Unfortunately, so CPW works in a 5-year big game season structure. It's a moving target, so there's not an appropriate date that we can find that falls between 3rd and 4th. However, given November 15th, that provides over this last, including next year, the 5-year season structure, A November 15 date would provide 26 days of vehicular access past the gate. If we go with November 10, it provides only 6 days. That's 6 days in 5 years. So, and like, Ron's.
Could you repeat that? I was a little confused about that.
So-
Go back to the first example.
We operate on a 5-year big game season structure. And so we determine the seasons 5 years in advance. So within that 5 years, a November 15 date allows vehicular access past the gate for 26 days in that 5-year period, which third season is 7 days, so that's 35 days. Of the 35 days, 26 days they can drive in there. If we go to a November 10 date, within those 35 days, it's only 6 days that they would have vehicular access past the gate. As Ron said, with it being 1.8 miles, I don't know if you guys have ever tried dragging an elk 1.8 miles. It's pretty tough. So I would prefer the 28th, but have gone past that, so I'm willing to settle on the 15th for the hunting community and providing access up there. Additionally, we have Cathedral Lake up there where people camp up there. They camp up on Pearl Pass. As Ron said, if we close that gate, we have a lot of campers that camp up there that now where are they going to go? We already expressed it's illegal to camp on Express Creek Road there. So there's not a whole lot of parking up in the upper valley for hunters with, bumper hitch campers.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Are you speaking for CPW or for yourself?
CPW.
And how many hunters go up past the gate, the road closure, in a year?
It's hard to say, honestly. It's an over-the-counter season, so we don't have a number of licenses that are sold specifically for this.
That's the timer, but
For
it's
that
okay.
unit, for that season. So I know we have a lot of folks from out of state that go up there. A lot of folks from Denver go up there. And then that's a lot of locals that go up and back every day.
But what does a lot mean? Because they talked about a lot of skiers going up
Mm-hmm.
there, and now you're talking about a lot of hunters. I'd like some hard numbers.
Comparison, it's probably, I would say, 40 to 50.
In the whole second season or third season?
Third season.
Third season.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Curtis.
Anybody else who'd like to speak to this subject? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Anything from the commissioners? Well, yeah.
We've been focusing on Castle Creek, but I do want to point out Maroon Creek is involved too. And
Right.
I think the struggle there is Maroon Lake has become more and more popular for ice skating, and people like to go up there to skate. And so I think that the 15th gives them time to go up there in their vehicles, get some skating done, assuming it's cold enough. And if we were to back that up anymore, I think that we would hear from the ice skaters that like to go up there and skate as well. So we're strongly recommending the 15th just because it's a balance of needs that we're trying to make here.
I appreciate that, Brian. Yeah, Patty?
Do any of the skaters do snowmobiles? I mean, I think, they're kind of outdoorsy to go up there to skate, so they could still access up there by snowmobile?
If the road's not covered in snow, they wouldn't be on a snowmobile. And a lot of times.
I'm saying if the gate, if the gate was closed and there's still snow, they could still get up there to skate later.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They have to go scrape the ice with the snow, but they do that too. We know that.
I think that's the issue, yeah.
Well, I have a couple of comments. I really liked it when I think it was you who said last time, driving in a car is not hunting. Was that who it was for you? Somebody in here the last time said, driving in a car is not hunting. So I sort of feel that way myself, that if 1.5 miles is discouraging somebody from hunting, that doesn't exactly bring a lot of compassion from me. Hunting is an active sport. I guess it's a sport. And so I really don't think you have to drive to exactly where you're hunting, and there are ways to move animals out. So that would be one comment I would make. And then also I wanted to say that the people who get stuck in there and the road closes, they get brought out. They don't have to spend the winter in there. They get rescued. And so I really want to support our staff, but I am inclined, I'd like to hear from some other commissioners, but I'm inclined to go with an adjustable closure date like the past does, so that we can accommodate the winter sports people who want to go up there. I think this is basically a ski area, and the whole valley, Upper Valley, is a ski area between Nordic and Alpine, so I'm leaning that way, but I'm not firm in my response yet, so I would like to hear from some other commissioners. I hope one of you will talk. No? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful to have everybody here today, and I'm grateful for you all to come. You know, I guess I'm leaning more towards the November 10th closure date based on hearing that this is a little bit of an acceptable compromise from some of the interested parties. I will own my bias and say I'm more biased towards favoring the skiing use rather than the hunting use. And that's just my bias for what I think the greater use in the community is, and just my own lens that I come to this with. So that's a little bit of where I'm headed, which would provide the staff with the certainty that they're looking for as well.
Steve's hands up also.
Steve and then Patty.
So I am one hunter who actually has put on cross-country skis and gone hunting. And I think it's a great way to hunt when there is snow on the ground, depending on the terrain that you are in. And we have dragged elk out on toboggans over the snow over the years. I personally guess I would rather have a flexible date for the closure. Would to me be the ideal. That if in a year when there is no snow to be groomed, the road could be left open until Thanksgiving time if there isn't snow to be groomed in those years. I know that the CPW board keeps, they have tended to be extending seasons later and later into the fall, and just over the years that's been a tendency. So I don't think we should be planning on keeping the road open just for the hunting seasons, clear to the end of all the hunting seasons. Having it be open to the end of the third season, which then the date varies from year to year, could be a possible compromise for making it, the most availability for the hunters. Another option I would see is to provide some camping area down below the winter closure gate for hunters to have their hunting camps. And to tell you the truth, if hunters can't walk an extra mile and a half, or if they can't put on cross-country skis and go, maybe they're hunting in the wrong country. They need to get somewhere where it's easier access for them. I'm used to hunting up in the wilderness area where you do everything by foot or horseback anyhow. You can't take motorized vehicles beyond a certain point, and then we walk for miles and miles, and that just is part of hunting to me personally. So I'll leave it at that for now. If it comes to the, trying the November 15th date, I would want to have that be on a trial basis that we would review every year and see if it worked the previous year, what were the problems that arose. I know that the staff has come back with the same recommendation, and I think they probably have good reasons for that, and I would like to support the staff. I think the flexible date is better for the public, personally. Thank you.
Patty?
Yeah, we've been going through this for many years, and John's right. But you know what? Something here is totally out of our control. It's called climate change. We never know when it's going to snow. We could get 3 feet of snow in October and close the gate. and 6 weeks later, or 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks later, that snow could be gone. So I think for me, the set closure date of the 15th, which has been worked out, it's a compromise. Forest Service supports it also, is worth, and I know John doesn't want a trial, but you know what? These days we're hit or miss on a lot of things because nature is out of our control these days, totally. So I would like to see it at the 15th with a trial. Bring it back if it doesn't work or we're finding that the season is changing. We used to have how many feet of snow at Thanksgiving? We all know it. I grew up in Southern California, and I was skiing in the San Bernardino National Forest with feet of snow at Thanksgiving every year. And then you could barely ski at Christmas. And California, you barely ski all year anymore because I skied in an area that didn't have snowmaking. So we just never know what's out there. So I would like to see it set at the 15th because that's been a date that's been compromised by CPW, the Forest Service, and the county staff. And I think we should try it for 2 years, see how it works. Or if in a year we find out people are getting trapped or the season, we just don't know. And I think that having a set closure date gives people an idea. This is when that gate is closed, rather than people driving up there, finding a closed gate with no snow on the other side. We're going to hear about it, guys. We're the ones who get the phone calls. And people are going to be saying, why did you close the gate when the road is open, it's dry, and you've closed the gate? Because it might have snowed 3 weeks before that with a significant amount of snow. So I think having a set closure date, let's see how it works, and then have staff bring it back to us. And I don't have a problem with that. And thank you all for being here. I think it's great. We need to hear from the public, because it is a public road to public access to public lands.
Did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank everybody who showed up today. It's good to have a full range of thoughts on this. If we want to serve the greatest number of people, we'd be biased toward the skiers, of course, and the hut users. It's always frustrating, as Patty points out, when the road is clear and the gate's closed. It doesn't seem fair, doesn't seem right. But things like that happen. I'm still having trouble understanding the full necessity for a firm closure date, but I also trust our staff has gone through this, and if they've reached a compromise, I would be willing to support that. If we get a massive snowstorm on the 10th of November, my guess is the road's going to be closed then. You're not going to plow it just to close it again 3-4 days later. Or would you? And that's the part I'm questioning. It's like, you know, if we get a massive dump on Independence Pass, CDOT doesn't go through incredible feats to get it open again just to close it again a few days later. So how does that work? How are we gonna do that on the chance we get a big winter massive dump early? It would be nice to see the skiers get in there early, quite honestly, and tell the hunters they're going to have to ski in, as Steve says.
Yeah, and the plan does give staff flexibility to make that kind of judgment call in an event like that. If you guys rested on November 15th and received a couple feet of snow on the 13th, and that's going to, proceed through that time, I don't see us plowing that off.
Is there any way you could consult with the ski area operations and cook, if they said, hey, listen, this first storm is what it'll keep us and get us through Thanksgiving, is there a way you're going to be in communication with the other users so it's not a surprise to anybody if you show up or not?
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of the challenge, right? Like with the flexible date, if we go up there at 4 a.m. on a morning and it's 1 inch of snow, we're going to plow it off. If we come back 7 hours later and it's 1 inch of snow, we're going to plow it off. If it snowed 3 feet overnight, which it doesn't usually do, but it could happen, we could be like, oh, that's 3 feet of snow. We won't plow it off. But that's the challenge with a flexible date is it's only 1 inch of snow. We'll plow it. And the plows can move a foot of snow pretty easily. 1 inch to a foot doesn't make a difference to those trucks. And so that's been our challenge with that flexible date is we'll plow it off today. It's 1 inch. Tomorrow is 1 inch. 3 days later is 1 inch. Then it snows 5 inches the next day. And then the whole time we're getting scrutinized because we shouldn't have been plowing it since day one because now there's a foot in the grass on the side of the road and there's 0 on the road. And so that's why we really like to push for a set date is we'll plow up until that day, and it doesn't matter if it snowed 1 inch or 0 or 5 feet or whatever. I think to your point though, Greg, if we show up to the gate in the morning and there's 3 feet of snow, or let's say a foot, whatever a significant snowfall is, we can make those adjustments to say that's just too much. and addressed as it hasn't happened in a while.
Got it, okay.
But what happens in a flexible date is the debate that's occurring right here
Yeah, I see that.
happens every
Every
year.
time.
Yeah, I
Get
get
it.
that.
I get it.
I'm trying to give us a 2-year break.
Right.
Well, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of old-fashioned and like to depend on the weather more than a set date, so,
Do you want us to make the decision? I mean, we can.
Motion.
I
Can make a
think
motion.
that they would like a decision, yes.
Sorry, I interrupted.
But I would say that there are definitely more skiers than hunters, and I completely agree with Steve. My family doesn't hunt from our trucks. We hunt miles from our trucks usually. So I would go with a flexible date, and if I have to make a motion, I will in a minute. But and if we can't pass that, I would move the date back a little bit. I don't think that moving the date back will hurt you guys. It will affect CPW's request, but I don't think it would hurt maintenance, so.
Correct.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
My concern is that the 15th is a date that everybody's compromised on. They've discussed it. You've got the Forest Service on board, you've got CPW and staff. So that's why I'm suggesting the 15th, because that's something that they have been working on, and I think they've put in a lot of time and energy on that date. Wasn't just pick a number out of a hat, so. You want to make a motion, Francie?
I want to hear more comments.
If I could, you've said CPW, Forest Service, and staff are saying the 15th. I'm here from the skiing community, which I'm going to suggest represent the bulk of the public who are using, are asking for earlier, even still. The 10th is what we discussed last time, but I'm not sure if that's where they are. If the 15th is a compromise they'd accept. I'm not 100% certain of that now, and I don't want to reopen it, but I want to make sure I know what I'm proposing.
Can I?
I'm unclear where you stand.
I'm still right. Thank you. You're perfect. You're
Well,
right.
we have 2 people representing the skiers and 2 people representing the hunters. So I'm seeing 2 and 2, you know, and there's a lot of people that we don't know the hunters. We don't have the number, we don't have the count. I don't know if 40 to 50 hunters is correct. I saw John shaking his head, but it's a public road for public use to public land. And if we weighed the people that ride bikes versus the people that walk places, we'd be in big trouble.
I have a question about if it's a flexible date, and we do have the years where we don't have snow in November, then the road would stay open for the skaters. Sometimes we get those really cold Novembers without snow, so then the skaters could drive up there and the hunters could drive up there after the 15th, correct?
Yeah.
If we had a flexible date?
Sure. I mean, are we plowing the road through that flexibility, or are we letting the snow? It provides staff difficulty in managing a road that is variably going to be closed. Because are we plowing that road to keep it open then until?
You mean for 1 or 2 inches of snow?
Exactly right. To maintain that access or not. Our experience with gates is a firm closure date has worked out better.
Gate
date.
I'll make a motion that, I think we might have to change the resolution, but I would make a motion that if we have a definitive date of closure, that it is a little bit earlier for November 10th, since that seems to be another possible compromise point.
And that's what I said, so I will third that.
Second and third.
Okay. Any more comments on that? Steve, did you want to comment on that?
I'd be okay with the 10th or the 15th.
Can you turn your volume up?
I'll just have to talk louder.
Okay.
I can't change the volume on this. If I wanted to go back to the idea of a flexible date, what I would see as a flexible thing would have very specific parameters. One would be that it would never be closed before November 1st. It could be left open until there's snowfall, which could even be in the middle of December in a couple of years in the past. You could drive over Independence Pass in 76, 77. The highway department left it open because there wasn't any snow. And so, but I would say November 1st would be the very first date that the road could potentially be closed. And that it wouldn't be closed until there is actually snow. Also, if there's 1 or 2 inches of snow, I would not have the county bother to plow it. I was just up in Fairbanks for 3 weeks, and we had a 10-inch snowstorm there, and it took the borough, which is their equivalent of county, took them about 5 days to get all the borough roads plowed. And people are used to that, and it was okay, you know, it's okay driving on a road that's not been plowed off. That's part of living in the mountains, I think. And maybe we plow the roads too much. If there's a 1-inch snowstorm, should just let people drive on it, or a 2-inch snowstorm. We don't have to plow absolutely every snowstorm on these kind of back roads. You know, maybe the main artery road, sure, but that's just another thought to throw into the process. But I could support Francie November 10th date or November 15th for this trial 1 year. I'm seeing it as a 1-year trial closure on that date.
I think the original resolution was as a trial, is that correct?
I don't think so. I think it
No.
just sets the date.
Forever.
Well, but, I mean,
We
it's
can
always a
revisit it.
trial, isn't it? Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's always a trial, we can always come back.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a motion on the table.
Yeah, we do. So we have a motion to have a definitive date of closure on November 10th, and we have a second from Kelly. If there's no more discussion, I'll look for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
Steve, are you voting?
Yeah, I'll vote in favor.
Okay, so it passes 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks everybody.
I hope it's a compromise that works for people.
All right, we pulled it together and made a decision.
We used to close the public hearing.
Household, let people use their skis to go.
And I'll do a motion to continue if you want.
You have to make a motion to close the
Yeah.
hearing. Go ahead.
Well, no, you just could close the public hearing and
Oh.
move to the next one, and then we can take a break maybe before the
Okay.
last.
Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing on these individual consideration items. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Welcome back to the Board of County Commissioners regular meeting on Wednesday, March 8th. We are moving right into land use items. The first one, resolution denying the Sewell request for constrained site TDR, has been continued until
April 26th.
April 26th, so we will talk about it then.
Do we need to make a motion to continue that to April 26th?
Oh, yeah, we do. Thanks.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye.
And Steve is not back? Oh, he's back. Okay, good.
Hi. And Francie, I'm gonna have to leave before the turnabout, before, partway through the turnabout thing.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Do we have
So, and I think Kelly indicated she has to be leaving too, so.
Can you text me if there's anything that you would like me to bring forward or any questions you have before you leave the meeting? Just if you have
And I'm
questions.
gonna be listening in on as much of the discussion as I can on the presentation, but then I'm gonna have to leave before it's all over, I'm sure.
Okay.
He needs to state them on the record. We can't have texting amongst the commissioners while we're in an open meeting.
Not even with questions?
No, it'd be better if he just
Okay.
states them.
Okay. Alrighty, thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
All right, are we hearing from you first, Leslie?
Ms. Grassroots, are we back on?
Yeah, we're on.
I'm just wondering, if Kelly's gotta go and Steve's gotta leave, we've been in this with everyone for so long. Maybe we should punt. And so we have a
What time
full
do you have to
board.
3 to 4.
Well, really?
I mean, I just think, it's a big item. Everyone's been participating throughout the process. I just feel like maybe the full board should be here for the decision-making part.
Well, I was really looking forward to hearing the new presentation. I've read through the packet and there's been some substantial changes. Craig?
I appreciate if you're asking to withdraw, whatever you call it, table it.
To continue it?
Continue it. That's your prerogative. And if that's what you're asking, I would support that. I'm willing to stay for at least a half an hour and listen if we want to take a plunge at it before we continue it. If that, since we're all here, but really it's up to you all.
My concern is, you know how it is, if you start the discussion this week, and then if we come back in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks, all that information's stale. And I know it's been since January 11th, I believe, that we last talked about it. And I was going to spend just a few minutes to kind of refresh everyone's memory about where we were. It's like right in the tip of my mind all the time, and I've forgotten a lot of the stuff. So I'm sure it's more difficult for the board members that aren't, with it all the time like I am. So I think it's just better to do this in front of a full board and do the whole presentation all at once, in terms of Leslie's comments and mine as well. So I would request that we would do that.
So does that require a motion from one of us?
It does. We have to have a date certain, though, so.
Right, so we're working on a date.
Next possible date, since we've been asked not to put things on the 22nd of March, which is your next meeting, then after that would be sorry. We'd be looking at the 11th of April, which is when you've pushed your regular meeting onto a Tuesday. Right now, we just have one land use item on there. So that would be your first available
Is it yours?
So I would be.
option.
Make a motion that we continue the Turnabout Ranch discussion for PUD and plat amendments, activity envelope, site plan review, constrained and visually constrained site TDRs, special review, GMQS exemption to April 11th.
I'll second.
All right, so.
I just would like to really apologize. We found out yesterday that Sewell was being continued, and I thought that I would be back here by 4 for this conversation.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm very sorry.
Well, it's okay. I understand things come up, and Steve's will be back, so I think it'd be just better for everyone.
Is there any possibility of recessing until 4? Would that change your mind?
I will be here, so that's fine with me, but I don't.
But we would lose Steve.
We would still lose Steve.
John,
Yeah. I think we should just
April
continue
11th.
to the 11th. That's a Tuesday, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
because of a holiday on the Wednesday.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor of continuing the Turnabout Ranch discussion until April 11th, please say aye.
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 Great, thank
Reluctant
you.
aye.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for waiting. Sorry for the
Sorry to the
hassle.
applicants.
What's after that? Open discussion.
Scott Condon, I hope you have
be
something
here on
else
the
to write
11th?
about.
If I'm not here, I'll make sure that whoever.
Okay.
Let's see if he's paying
Sure,
attention.
watching from
We
the-
need the whole team.
Someone will be prepared.
Okay.
Sorry about
Is that
that,
Sorry,
guys.
Jonathan.
What? That's after spring break.
No, it's the beginning of Sam's, I'll be in Bike Moab, so.
Another afternoon of your life wasted.
I'm not happy about that.
Hi, Jonathan.
That's the first time we've ever done that.
I have a
in
Hershey
my
sign
term.
in my front
Doesn't
yard,
happen often.
Jonathan.
What?
Doesn't happen often.
Okay, well, I guess we're in open discussion now.
I don't have any open discussion for the board.
I guess I don't either. Anybody else have open discussion?
Nope.
Nope, I'm good.
I'll look for a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 See you soon, Steve.
Steve, travel safe. I like the beard.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm
I
getting
don't
used to it.
know about the
still,
beard,
but
Steve.
I like it a
It's
lot.
looking pretty good. It's white like an old man.
No, you
we
look
all,
good.
do we get to vote on this beard?